obviously.
Yes.
Right.
How are you?
I'm good. What about you?
Wait a second. Okay. I'm fine. I think I'm onto something. I took it seriously what Marius told me last Wednesday, I think. And he said I should read his text about
Yep.
meaning, giving meaning to things again. So I did it. And then I started looking, and then I remembered your words. Like when you're sitting, you just have the sensation of your butt on the chair. And I looked at this sensation. And okay, there's the sensation. This is what I perceive. And then I looked further and I discovered that my bottom is only there if I think about it. If a thought comes in form of a label, it's my butt, or an image, a mental image. So some kind of thought has to come for me to include the bottom in the story. And then the chair, the sofa, anything also. So actually, without thinking, there is no bottom, there's no sofa, there's just this sensation. And especially if I ask the famous question, who is perceiving this? First, the question has to come in form of a linguistic unit as a sentence, who is perceiving? And then a thought has to come as an answer, it's me. So it's a long chain to get to this me. There's no me in the sensation of sitting on anything.
Right.
There's only the sensation. But this discovery is, I would say, very frail with me.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm playing with it. I'm repeating it in many situations, not just this, not just sitting, but it's the easiest, I think.
Yep. Yep. So
Sound,
parallel thinking.
yeah,
Let's have some lateral thinking, right, about it. So one of the things that jumps up for me when you tell me that story is that chair, butt, anything, in fact, only actually exists as a thought,
yes,
a concept. It's about it. So the most tangible aspect to anything is your awareness of it,
yes,
whether you're aware through your physical or whether you're aware of a made-up meaning of it.
yeah,
In both cases, it takes awareness. Now, you're only aware that you're aware if there are thoughts there. So
yes,
we can presume that you're aware when you're not aware that you're aware. But we don't know
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's irrelevant to us.
yeah,
In our experience, it's only so. What you've done, what you've got, is huge, and that is that you've separated the absolute from the referential.
yes,
So
yes.
now
And
you
then,
can see that this is from
yeah,
your perspective, everything.
yes. And then more things like this. For example, when an airplane flies by, I can see the airplane and I can hear the airplane, and the image and the sound are separate. I see this. And
Yeah,
especially easy with the airplanes because the intellect helps, because you know somehow that the sound that you hear from an airplane is not the sound that
yeah,
it's not in time, it's not so connected, it's far away because sound is much slower
yeah.
than,
So there are all sorts of
yeah,
indications. That's right.
it helps.
Are you aware that there's no aeroplane there. That what you're actually interacting with is just a glitter,
A
just
something.
just a something sparkling in the sky, and
Yes, yes.
your mind says that's an
It's an
aeroplane.
airplane. Yes.
Yes. And so when we get back to that, just a sparkle, even like before the words turn up to describe it,
Mm.
that direct experience is absolutely loaded with all sorts of implications.
Yeah.
That that's
I
where the
don't know
magic
this.
is. Mm.
What I would like to do now, what I'm compelled to do now, is to stay and do this, rehearse this, because I think it's very. I could forget about it and go about my days,
Sure, I get what
my
you're
work.
saying. Yeah. So
It's interesting.
it, I see it as important and valuable that when you quote rehearse this, as you said, right, that you're not trying to remember an ideal, right? So it's not the case of whether or not that happens
Mhm.
that's the issue, but rather it is about your relationship with it,
Mm.
what we're looking at. So when you're rehearsing it, instead of rehearsing it in order to remember it and to remind yourself of these things, what you're doing is you're rehearsing it as an opportunity to see
Yeah.
again what's actually goes on for you. What
Yes.
is
Yes.
the
Yes.
actual experience?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. To look and because this uh, sensation plus sides um, in time is very close to each other. So you have to develop some kind of concentration and skill to see it.
Yep. Well, you
It's a
get better
skill.
and better at that kind of thing just by doing it. Yeah. But we're on the edge of really weird things happening as well. And one of those things that I've no doubt that you will experience is time dilation or time expansion.
Mm.
And so what can actually take a measured amount of time with a stopwatch can seem like it takes 10 times that much time for it to happen, or even faster. It can be instant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in that when time gets slowed down and spread out like that, that you can see
Then it's
those
easier.
the difference,
Yeah.
the separation of those things. See, this is a really big thing. We've been brought up to assume, to believe that thoughts cause things to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing in thoughts, actually.
No. So here's an interesting one. Thoughts are like sensation. In themselves, they contain no actual information about how we should behave, about a
Yeah.
response. Right?
Mm.
So when we have a thought that we respond to, we're not compelled to respond by the thought.
Mm.
It's what we've learned to do with that particular thought or thought
Mm.
area or whatever. Yeah.
Mm.
So it's the compulsion that we need to recognize and break, that thing that we are compelled to do what a thought says.
Mm. Yeah. With thoughts, I would say I'm fairly fine with it. I know what thoughts are. They're empty and I don't need to believe them. I'm okay with this. I think this is stable with me now.
Mm. Excellent, excellent.
Also, see,
Then it's
yeah,
time to move on. You
yeah,
go on.
when you said now, and now something will happen, this and that, and there was a chain of thought with me. I thought, oh, I love hearing you what comes next, but then I don't like you to tell me what comes next because their expectations are set. But then again, why not? I know what expectations are. I can recognize them and I can dismiss them. So no
Yes,
problem.
yeah.
We can
You're not
talk.
compelled to obey
Yeah,
them. Yeah,
yeah,
to
yeah.
chase
And I can
after them. Yeah,
enjoy what you're telling me.
yeah. And look, Marius picks this one with me frequently, and he's right, absolutely right. And that is that I talk like I know what will be next for you, and I have no
Yeah.
idea what will be next for you. You know, it's just fantasy
And
that comes up here. Yeah,
and this I know also very well, that I don't know what comes. And if you talk to me about something that will come, I know that this is just,
just a seed.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, 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 what comes next? It's hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah.
But now that you have quite clearly broken the compulsion to obey your thoughts, right? It's easy now to say all my thoughts are empty. They're all rubbish.
Yes. Yes.
And it's kind of true, but now what will sneak in is a different use of thought. And so now we'll start to be respectful to thought's intention.
How do you
Right?
mean?
Well, we're not. Yeah, it's a bit tricky, isn't it? We're not. We're not compelled to obey the blatant. Um, I've lost the word. What comes in a thought, the content of a thought. We're not
Mm,
compelled to obey the content of the thought, but we can look at that thought and see what its intentions are, so to speak. Like we can look underneath we're not lost in the content, but we recognize that a thought's turned up and it's saying blah, 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 whatever it's saying. But we also recognize that there's a reason why it's doing that. It's
can
wanting
you
to,
give me an
it's
example?
trying to tell us something. Well, my immediate response is no, I can't. Let me think about it.
Is it like, again, back to the shadow work, which
Um,
we told it's not necessary because the shadows are in the past and who cares about them, but they do have reflections in what happens now, and these are the conditionings, right?
yes, yes. And this, because what we're looking for now is, let's say, the intention of the unconscious part of
Okay.
us, right? That it's we're changing our relationship to thoughts. We're becoming friendly with them, and we're giving them some respect, not for what they say, but rather for what they intend.
Mm,
And their intention is always to look after us. And so that when they turn up, they want to help. Right now, they
okay.
can be just like an annoying kid that won't shut up and keeps on butting in all the time. That's the way they were in the beginning. Now, let's put it this way: that the kid has grown up and he's asking intelligent questions.
Okay, okay. But we do put some weight on the content of thoughts then, right?
Sure.
You think that? Okay.
Well, i- i- referencing what I just said, sometimes the content of thought will be an accurate depiction
Mhm.
of its intention. But we don't blindly accept the content of thought as something that we have to respond to, react with. We
Mhm.
we we can consider. Now, I'm not giving you work to do, and I'm not meaning for you to put a lot of emphasis on this.
No, no,
Just
no.
recognise that this is a continual evolution that's going on. Yeah.
No, there is a I have the impulse to say now, but I will stick to dismissing the thoughts for the time being because
Sure.
because
Yep. No
something.
problem. Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
feel
fine.
like it.
Yep. Yep. And you will know one day a thought will turn up that will have a different flavor.
Okay.
Right? It'll have sugar instead of salt on it or something. It'll
Okay.
just taste different, and you'll go, oh, okay. I wonder if this is one of those. Yeah,
Uh,
but leave it. Leave it. Wait until it happens. You don't need to work at it at all, for sure.
is this the case for thoughts that somehow hit and you know deeply that they are true and then it shows that they're true?
Yeah, well, that deeply knowing is yes.
Yeah.
That's the flavour that you can tell that's coming from the brain in your gut rather than
Yeah.
the one in your head. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a few in life. Not many, no. Few of them. I know the situation.
Mm.
Okay, but now comes the thought, okay, I know the situation, but I'm not supposed to go out and look for the situation. I have to forget about what we said now. I don't want to set any expectations for me.
Yeah. So you just got lost in fantasy land there. That you can go and do these things. That you can either not or do it or not do it. You can go out and look for this situation or not. Well, that's not the way things work. You
Yeah,
know, it'll happen
yeah.
or it won't happen. That's it. You know,
But I
you don't
I
have
do
to
see
think
that,
about
yeah.
it.
Yeah. It will happen or it won't happen. But I see that this chance of thoughts, they appear by chance. This chance is leading me somewhere. A thought has come or hasn't come. The ones that come, that they lead me somewhere.
Mm. They offer
Yeah,
possibilities. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't react. I don't react, but I acknowledge them. I mean, in real life, like I'm going to stand up now and make myself a cup of tea. If I get the thought, I will do that. If I don't, I won't. This is how the thoughts lead me. They come by
Yeah.
chance and lead
But
me
what
to do things.
there will be many times. All right. So here's
Well, these
something
are
that
these are not thoughts. These are just impulses, and then I
yes,
label them with thoughts. Okay,
yes.
yeah,
Okay. So you see that. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
That's one of those cases where that time expansion works really well. Where it's almost like the thought turns up. I will get up and make a cup of tea, and then the memory turns up that said, "Oh, I did feel like having a cup of tea before the
Yes.
thought turned up."
Yes.
So it's like you can spread things
Yeah.
out a little bit and see them,
Yeah.
um, or it will happen. Yeah.
Yeah, we say look, just look. Don't believe the thoughts or separate the thoughts from sensations and so on. But it's hard. It's not easy.
Mm.
It's not accessible to everyone just like that.
Yeah, absolutely not. I agree. None of this stuff is easily accessible. If it appears to be easily accessible, logically speaking, it's because all of the conditions necessary for it to be accessible have been met, and
Mm.
that's probably involves the whole lifetime of that person, but especially stuff more recently. So it's all a case of ripening fruit kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, ripening, exactly.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting trip for me just recently because I've had this feeling that, well, before I was very cognizant of the fact that I was ultimately patient and that I had no agenda for waking anybody up. It would, it'll happen when it happens, and it happens when they're ready for it, kind of thing, and that's all there is to it. But recently, and I blame Marius for this, talking to Marius, I've got a bit impatient. I'm
Yeah,
thinking, I need to push things along a bit harder, maybe to
yeah.
help people. So,
Sometimes,
but Marius will be critical of me saying to you what I believe to be the case, and that is that, and you can just see yourself going like this already. um, you're more awake than you think you are. Now, it's a stupid thing to say because it's meaningless, but I don't know any other way to say it. Right? So there are lots and lots of elements of this stuff that you've got well and truly as part of
yeah.
you. Yeah.
I, if I use a metaphor, if you had a puzzle image, my puzzles might be on the right places, but they have not clicked yet, all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many
Yep.
have, they just have to be clicked into a little bit adjusted, the positions just a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
adjusted.
And it
But
feels close.
many of
Yeah.
them are in place, yeah.
Yeah. What's clicking going to change when that happens? This is a big thing. This is a really, really big point, a huge point. When that final click happens and you go, ah, I get it. I get it. I know what they're talking about. And then everything looks exactly the same.
Yeah. I thought about it yesterday and I thought, why are we doing it? What's in it? What's in it for anyone? Why are we so compelled to do it? Why are we so compelled to talk about it
Mm.
so much, to meet, to
So is
meet?
that compulsion, being compelled, is that pushing from behind or pulling from in front or something else?
Pushing from behind, I think.
Yep. So in other words, it's like we're looking for something better than what we think we've got.
I'm not looking for anything anymore. I
Mm.
just accepted that there won't be anything. Time, expectations, okay, I see that in what I said. I'm not expecting anything. No, I'm not even disappointed.
Mm.
I don't know.
All right,
But
try this story out. The meeting starts and I say, hello, Mayor. And you say, hello, Vince. Guess what? I'm awake, right? And I get a surge of joy and I feel really, really good. And my heart just expands greatly and tears flow. And then we go back to doing exactly what we've been doing
yeah,
because this evolution continues. It doesn't end. There is no that point. I'm about to. I've got a very fundamental kind of story happening at the moment about that line, and I've temporarily given it a title. This story of the line between being awake and not being awake. What if the line between being awake and not awake is very wide and very blurry? That's a temporary title, but that's what I'm going to look at in the story that I'm going to do about that, because I don't see it as a very thin, sharp, acute kind of shift that comes. It does happen like that for some people, but then they go back to the blurriness later,
Mhm.
or you go through the blurriness to get to where you go, oh, okay, I think I am. Yeah, I wonder if that was the line I've been crossing over for the last 3 months or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can talk about expectations, but again, changing them from a story that we react to to just a story that's there. And what makes the difference? What is it? What happens when it goes from a story that we react to, even if we don't think about it, we still have it in the background, to a story that's just there, and it's might or might not happen. We don't care.
For me, a few things, a combination of few things. The ability to recognize thoughts as I so well remember the moment when I understood for the first time that I am not obliged to react to thoughts. I was like, I had an argument with my mom, and I was so enraged. And then there was a possibility for me to react or not to react. I mean, from seen from the outside. But then something went blink, and I understood my emotions and my thoughts are not me. I was like distance from them, and I was able to watch them from the outside. And I suddenly understood, oh, you, the thoughts and the emotions, you are not you're not the boss of me. This was the moment,
Mm.
the one that I
So
remember so well.
that blink, blink that you mentioned,
Yeah,
that's the juice. That's the gold.
yeah,
That is what happened in that thing, that where suddenly you could create stories from all sorts of perspectives about it. Now, one of them would be to say a belief changed, or
yeah.
a belief was superseded by a new belief, and the new belief is I don't have to do what they say.
Yes,
You
yes.
know?
I wanted to say that a habit changed. A habit changed because a belief changed.
Yes, right.
And this is it, me not reacting to thoughts, me seeing the thoughts as something else, not I was enslaved in thoughts before that because I didn't even see that there are thoughts and there's me. I was
Yeah,
just,
yeah. Just a
yeah,
a mass. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. All right. So let's look at and let's apply that bling, same thing to everything that we see might be useful to apply it to. And if it could happen, see, this is the thing. We make such a big deal out of something that's not a big deal at all. Right? If we could say, I want you to believe that you're awake. I don't care how you get there, but if you believe that you're awake, you'll see things from a different perspective.
Okay.
Some of the things that you've already seen from a different perspective are from an awake perspective. That's already happening for you.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're looking at everything. We're just looking at a remainder. And you can tell, I imagine that you can tell when you have an ego response to something, when you feel a bit puffed up and strong about, like something's happened that you go, oh, I'm going to take credit for that. That was
Mm.
nice, you know. If that still happens, if that happens from time to time, and there are variations of that right down to negative stuff,
Hurt. Yeah.
but yeah, but that can happen and it can be seen to happen. And not that the seeing, maybe in the beginning, maybe it's a progressive thing, but it's the seeing that it's not an ego response, the seeing that it's a shell of old habit that
Mm.
might turn up, right? So
Mm.
in other words, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean we're not awake, right?
Yeah.
Even if it turns up and there is some ego inflation, but then it's seen, and that will kind of hollow it out,
Mm.
the seeing of it,
Yeah.
and it will be seen for what it is. And then that's just something that happened that will very likely mean that it'll happen less in the future.
This is how I take it. Yes, this is how I take it all. But now I have another problem. Um, I have the belief, and I know it's a belief, so I'm talking about it from the outside. I have a belief that I just, how to say, um, somehow have trust and believe in you and Marius, and I just copied your beliefs and what you say. I have this. This is deep and this is old. This is an old conditioning. There's no me, and I just take other people's beliefs and opinions, and whomever I talk to, I adjust. I adjust so well. It's a kind of mimicry with me. There's no me, which is a good thing, interestingly. No me, I adjust to every situation. Now when I'm talking to you, and it's spilled into life in general, I just took your beliefs and now I believe them because just I don't
Okay,
know.
so answer me this, and this is the critical point. Did you take them and wear them and see what they felt like and kept the ones that resonated and rejected the ones that didn't? Or did you, as a matter of principle, force yourself to wear them and just keep reminding yourself to put them on?
I didn't force myself. They felt good, so I took them.
So they resonated. They felt good. They
Yeah,
resonated, yes.
yeah.
So
But
you
I
don't
have
accept anything that doesn't feel good, do you?
no, not in this setting. Not in this setting. I have to somewhere else, but not here. Um, and with other people, even when I don't like them and I adjust, and I would never counter, I like the words, I would never argue with them
Mm.
uh, because I'm really avoiding arguments.
Well, you say that, and that's a story that may or may not have validity. That's just a perspective, a way of looking at it and describing it. And it might be true, it might be the main thing, or it may be that you feel that there's absolutely no point in arguing, and
Yeah, there's no
you
point.
know,
There's no point in arguing, yes, but there's also creating an easier atmosphere for me to be in.
yes, okay, yeah, all right, I get
Yeah.
that. All right, so yeah, I've discovered that stuff in myself a long time ago.
Yeah.
I would almost morph into the person I was talking to.
Yeah.
I would quite unconsciously start to speak like them, adopt
Yeah.
their accent, and so on. And I found that really interesting. I mean, I could look at it and say, well, I just want to be liked. I just want everybody to like me, you know. Well, that's true,
Yes. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
is that the prime thing? Well, I don't know. I suspect that that's a basic human herd
Mm,
instinct, that we do that as because we're
yeah.
humans and
On the
we're
other
herd
hand,
animals.
now when I think there are people who I would like to argue with, but then comes this what for?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
won't change their beliefs. They won't, nothing would
Okay,
change,
yeah.
just an unpleasant
Yeah,
atmosphere
well,
to
if you butt
be
up against them, yeah, but if you change the subject and steer them towards something else, they can be quite okay.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. That's a big one here. Yeah. You've heard me say, I imagine, because I've said it a few times, that I'm just a response bunny. Have you
Mm.
heard that term? Have you heard me use that one?
No.
It's no, well, yeah, well, I've described myself that way on a few occasions, and it's like if if I if I lived by myself, that is, my wife wasn't here, and I didn't have anything to respond to, I would just sit still. It's like I'm a robot, and I would get turned off unless I've got a function, right?
Mm.
And but if something, including thoughts, turn up and I respond to that, then that's what I do. I just all day, every day, I just respond to what's in front of me. I respond to what's in my calendar. I respond to what my wife wants me to do. I respond to what my organism wants, like as in going to the toilet or whatever, having food. I just respond all day, every day. That's all I do. And I don't see it as insignificant. It's great. It's
Mm.
perfect. That way I don't have to think about what to do. I just
Mm.
respond to what's in front of me. And you're
And
talking about it like it's a problem.
I don't know now, because now to go back where we started, uh, m- my taking your point of views, your and Mario's point of views, I don't believe they are mine. You know, there is a
Mm.
belief that they're not mine, that I'm just,
Adopted them. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Well, I think that's good. And what you will find is that variations and adaptations will happen where you will adapt and change and adopt some of those for yourself because it suits.
Yeah.
It makes sense for you.
Yeah.
So I can
But
see that as a good thing. Yeah.
okay. Okay. But and on the other hand, I see the belief as belief. I
Mm.
believe that I adopted your whatever you're saying.
Whatever. Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
believe,
get
and
that.
it's a
Yeah.
belief. And I just go, okay, it's a belief. Well, a belief like any other thought, and who
Yep.
cares now? Now I have this set of changed behaviors, changed habits, this a little bit other set of these than before, a little bit different than before.
Mm.
So this is how it is now. And belief or not belief, who cares?
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. I was going to say this is again a future thing, but you're already doing some of this for yourself now. So it's again, it's to do with our relationship to thoughts. When we are no longer compelled to obey them, that's been broken, and then we start to look at them and become friendly with them. And then we start to realize that everything, absolutely everything, including what we perceive as physical stimulation, is the result of stories.
Mm.
That we have stories from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, and also in our sleep when we're dreaming. But
Mm.
essentially, they're stories there all the time. And a lot of those stories we don't even know about. They were hardwired in to the body
Mm.
because we with their habit kind of thing. But that's what we do all day, every day. We just respond to stories. Again, that's that response thing. We just respond.
Mm.
So when my wife said to me earlier today, time to take the dog for a walk, my first reaction was, oh, and then almost immediately, okay. And it was like that caught me unprepared. I was still wanting to finish something first, but I quickly realised, and I didn't do it. It just happened that way. That well, now it's time to go and take the dog for a walk. So that happened. But I didn't add another story to the part, saying that shouldn't have happened or anything along
Mm.
those lines. It was just part of the weather pattern that happened. So we can believe as a seeker that we're going to get to a point where shit doesn't happen. But that needs to be transformed into recognizing that what we used to think was shit actually
Yeah,
turns out to be something else.
I
You know?
wanted to say just because the shit won't happen just because we won't label it.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But the next level of shit, the spiraling off into more shit, that doesn't happen because we're not labeling it and putting meaning to it and so on.
In my experience, the shit always morphs into piles onto itself. It never
A
stops.
huge steaming mass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get more shit? Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, good. It's good fertilizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been reading any of the stories that I've been putting out on Substack?
I fly over them sometimes.
Mm.
Not in the last few days. I really started working. I got up at 5:30 yesterday and I stood up from the computer late in the evening.
Mm.
I enjoyed it.
The
Otherwise, I
work.
wouldn't be able to do it.
Mm.
It's analyzing data. Looking for stories where there are no stories.
Well, looking means making stories.
No, looking is just looking. Stories are another compartment. If you want to join them, you join them. If you don't have to.
Mm. So when you're looking, are you looking for or are you looking at something?
Both. Both.
All right. And there's your story.
Yeah. I mean, often they say these days data tell the stories. So I'm looking for some patterns to explain some things.
Mm. Yes, I'm blown away by how much is revealed by with how little in how little. You know, it's just, it doesn't
Yeah.
only takes a few words for whole worlds to be opened up and accessible. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you ever get to read any of the stories that I put out there, I generally put out one every day at the moment while I'm being prolifically creative with them, with the help of AI, of course, in a big way. But you know, um, I'd love your analytical reflections on them. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, but don't make it. It's not a job. Don't do anything you don't. Just if it happens that you're on a flight, that's just it. I mean, they're only 5 minute stories mostly.
I know, I
Not
know.
even that. Yeah.
I read them sometimes, yeah.
How are you, Jed?
Morning, Vince. Morning, Maya. Let's see. Well, my life seems to be going quite smoothly. Um, and as I say that, I'm thinking, well, that doesn't mean anything, I suppose. But it, I'm noticing more ease, I suppose, in my relationships and relationships with people and my relationships with life in general, I suppose, with work and money and health and cool. It makes me emotional to say that. That's quite a change. Yeah, I was talking to my partner yesterday, who she's got some health issues and nothing really major, but she's such a worrier. And it's funny. She's a psychotherapist, and yet she just seems to have so much I don't know, mental strife, I suppose. And so I had a bit of a chat with her about it yesterday, and I think I was just saying to her, um, I noticed that I'd been trying to help her, see things differently and see things in a way that meant that there was nothing to worry about. Um, and I just wanted to bring that up with her and say, look, I'm sorry if this isn't helping. I just want to acknowledge that I see this is what I'm doing, and um, it's based on what works for me, and I know I'm not going to change you, but I thought I might be helping. So we had a bit of a chat about it, and one of the things she said was, Well, just because you found a way to not worry about things anymore, it doesn't mean that I can find that or I have found that. And I don't know. It just was a good reflection, that she's noticed that I've stopped worrying about things. Um, and it's not everything, obviously. Worrying still happens, but considerably less. So, uh, and I think the only place I'm worrying these days is whether I've got this or not. I'm not exactly worrying, but I notice that the
Uh,
doubts and the questions and all. Yeah, it's kind of worrying. It's pretty close to worrying. So ironic.
When you
it
stop,
is.
there you
Yeah.
are.
When you stop, there you are.
Mm. Well, a lot of stuff that I said to Maya before you turned up is absolutely relevant for you as well. What? Tell me what you were laughing at. I mean, I was laughing too, but I know what I was laughing at. But what were you laughing at when you were saying the only thing that's akin to worrying is whether or not you've got this thing, and then you cracked up, right? That I love that. That's a healthy sign of recognition. What was it that you recognised? What was it that you were relating to when you were laughing? Is it just the irony of it, or something more?
I mean, the irony, I think, was the main part. Um, yeah, I just think it's. I suppose that in the irony is some sense that there's a whole load of stories knotted together there about what it's supposed to be like when I've got it. Um,
Mm. So that the fact that you have found a not worrying perspective on life. I mean, that's silly little phrase that encompasses a lot, doesn't it? Right. But the fact that you have stopped believing the old stories that were the main what you reacted to get into a worrying state. You've stopped believing those stories, but there's still this story about expectations that you do believe. Now, what's the difference between those two? I mean, aren't they both just thoughts that turn up from somewhere?
yeah, good question. Let me have a little explore. I think, yeah, I mean, I'll just lay it out, and it might not make sense when I lay it out, but
Yep.
um, yeah, um, as a caveat, when I write this stuff out, it seems to help me see through the the beliefs are contradictory, or they're not internally consistent. The beliefs I'm believing with in the context of what I now believe,
Mm.
what I know, how I now see things. Um, but it's something like I've got some sense that this new way of looking at things, maybe it's a bit like what Maya's saying. I only caught the end of it though. It's like a kind of another hall of mirrors, that there's not much substantial in it, that is, I don't know if it's what Maya was saying, but it's almost like I've swapped my previous beliefs for another load of beliefs, and I guess I'm not completely convinced by them, and I think there's a somewhere in my past I used to be a Mormon, and in the Mormon church they used to say to us, don't read what they called anti-Mormon literature. So, and that was basically stuff that disproved all their church history, you know, the foundation and of their leaders and stuff. Um, and and so I think I've got something going on where I don't think this is what we're saying here, but the idea that you can't think about it, you can't analyze it you can't make sense of it, you've got to just go with it. I know that's not what you're saying. You're saying go with experience and see, which is different. But in the Mormon church, they used to say,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think that's a relevant thing to consider. What comes to mind here is a previous experience that I had, and it way before I woke up. And it's a little bit like something I was saying to Maya about wanting to be liked, and as part of that, I would kind of imitate the person that I was talking to or being with in a way that I didn't do it on purpose, but I recognised that I was doing it, that I would even start talking like them. When that was a big revelation when I saw that happen. But I never said it because it wasn't appropriate before. But now it comes to mind that, you know what, some of the things that I tried out that came from other people being like other people, I liked and I kept,
mm,
and other
I relate
things
to
I didn't.
that.
And I figured, and I must have been a kid, I think, when I had this realization that that's how we end up being who we are. We end up keeping the bits that suit us, that make sense for us,
Yeah.
the bits that resonate. That's a much more powerful word, isn't it? But it's like resonating gives it a sense of credibility. Now, of course, things can resonate for the wrong reason, but essentially, if it happens unconsciously, I suspect that, you know, we've removed the craziness and chaotic nature that mind wants to bring to things, you know, so we just do it underneath, so to speak. But here's the thing, you know, and a lot of guides and teachers would argue with me about this one, and that is when we've got a belief, we frequently don't know we've got a belief. We just feel that this is right and that's the way we behave. The moment that we get upgraded on that belief with some new information that's relative to it, relevant to it, what will happen is the old belief will get superseded by a new belief. So I ask a question that I have no idea of the answer for, and I don't particularly need an answer, and that is that when we get rid of when we drop a belief, when we see through a belief, we see that that belief is not right, and it no longer is a belief. Do we always replace it with another belief? I suspect we do.
Oh dear.
I don't know if it's true. So what we end up with is a bunch of stories that we relate to. And a whole lot of those stories are about me.
Mm.
So, you know, from one perspective, you could say, I would describe myself as being awake. And it's I almost can't say that with a straight face, because as soon as I say it, you know, I go, well, what the fuck is this being awake thing? And it's bullshit. It's nothing. And it's not, it's, yeah. But then, you know, I get into these really weird places when somebody says, how you going? And I go, oh God, oh, I hate that question. What about uh, look, you hear, whether you're here or whether you're going to church or whether you're going to a Nazi gathering or whatever it is you're doing, that's what you're doing. There's no,
It's all beliefs, isn't it? You keep
yeah,
saying that it's all
exactly,
stories
yeah,
all the way
yeah,
down,
yeah.
unless we're having a moment of deep, of pure experiencing, and even that's filtered through
There'll be stories
stuff.
involved, yeah, for sure, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. But they're
But I
just
mean,
all.
I get one of the things that's significant here, and that is that, at least I think so, because I'm not sure. I think that when stories turn up, I hold them lightly. You know, it's kind of it's a bit humorous that they're there and I'm responding to them and kind of thing. You know, but I have a million of them. I have a total million of these stories about, you know, that I'm still going to be alive tomorrow. You know, that the sun's going to come up. That you know, all just pull them in from anywhere you like. And there's a million stories there that are just they're just there. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about this? I mean, I guess it's not so important, but um, I guess a lot of teachers and they talk about pure experiencing, direct experiencing, and that's the portal to seeing. I think, if I understand it rightly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could go
Um,
along with that. Yeah.
I I think I most of the time I'm not. Well, I don't know. I sometimes I do deliberate things that where I'm going for direct experience, whether it's in
Mm,
meditation or yoga or dancing. I do quite a lot of, or just any moment. I just try,
mm,
what happens if I try and drop into direct experiencing, and I don't think anything has ever been revealed to me about the some deeper nature of self or reality in it.
mm.
Um,
Yeah,
don't know. I just asked the question.
yeah. I would say, you know, when I look at that stuff, that the value in a direct experience sh- should, I found myself using that word, should happen the first time you experience direct experience. And that is that you're faced with a really vivid recognition of the difference between what is conceptual and what is actual.
Ah, I see.
And once that happens, forget it. You don't need another direct experience. You don't need to ever have another direct experience. You will have, but you don't need it for seeing that. So what we're talking about in the beginning, and what both of you guys have succeeded in doing at this stage, is breaking that compulsion to obey your thoughts. Now thoughts are considered for whatever value.
A lot of the
Right?
time, certainly not all the time, but
Well, that's right, and that's the nature of life too, isn't it? You know. So you don't have to become perfect before you wake up, because this trajectory towards perfection, if there is such a thing, well, let's just use it very loosely, it's going to happen until the day you die. And then the day you die, you'll realise that you still only got 50% of the way towards perfection. So there's no hurry. There's no urgency. It's going to take as long as it takes. And just because you can say, I'm awake, doesn't mean that there won't be more things for you to look at. Doesn't mean that it's not really good if you come to one of these meetings and get reminded about things. It's excellent if you can help someone else with a original perspective that they hadn't thought of, that nobody else had. That's great. So when I'm talking to you, Jed, I'm wondering what May is thinking about things that I say, or whether she's having her own original thoughts about what you would respond to in a appropriate way. Because that'll start to happen too. And at some point, they'll start to happen in such a way that you can actually say them rather than just think them. Yeah?
I hope. But then what I hope will happen or will not happen.
Mm. Isn't hope a wonderful feeling? It's a kind of a reaching out for...
Yes, but I had to learn to rein in all these things that relate to the future. Because, you know, when you learn something, you have to exaggerate, and then later you can ease into what you're doing, the new thing you're doing. So now I think I'm in the moment when I dismiss everything that has to do with the future. Hopes, expectations, stories about future, anything.
Mm.
This is how I feel now. I don't know.
Mm. And I would presume that that will morph into, well, how I would describe things when I think of future things. It's very almost whimsical. It's held very lightly. It still can feel nice, but there's no investment in it, because who knows whether it'll happen or not. Yeah.
Yeah. But before I was really attached to what I expect, to my expectations, to outcomes, things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm on rehab now.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, because I mean,
when you stop drinking, you cannot just take a beer every other
yeah.
day. You have to stop entirely.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe later you can.
It's a good metaphor.
Yeah.
So,
Rehab.
Original thinking.
Yeah.
detox from future, on detox from future.
But again, just to hammer home this, it's not thoughts about the future that are any kind of problem. You know, it's the connection to those thoughts, how seriously we take them, and of course, if you do take them seriously, well, you're guaranteeing yourself to be a failure, because they're only going to work out 1 out of 10 times what you think. So, you know, it's guaranteed suffering, isn't it?
Yeah, at the moment I'm a bit. I might be a bit too strict with this relationship to thoughts and expectations. Hope I'm a bit too strict, but
that's your nature, though, isn't it?
part of the process. Yeah, part of the process.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we do things according to our nature. So yeah, if you do it 100%, that's
Yeah,
fine.
that's me. That's me.
Don't accept 100% from me, though.
If I work 16 hours per day, or I just procrastinate.
Yeah, I get that. Mm. Yeah, I mean, I am in this really fortunate situation where I can do whatever I want. Yeah.
Mm.
And now I just suddenly realise the irony of that, of course, and that is that I don't want to do anything.
Mm.
Uh,
My relation to thoughts, yeah. Fortunate situation, not having to do anything. Happened twice in my life when I was really seriously ill, and then went on sick leave for months at a time. And I was so happy because I knew I didn't have to go to work. I was so happy, as if I would never have to go to work again. And one friend said, "Oh, it's really I'm concerned how you are talking about it. I was so enthusiastic about being sick and on sick leave." And then I started worrying, I don't know, I might attract some things onto myself because of this.
cool.
Yeah. And I still have this fear. I still have this fear that I'm too happy not having to do anything. So sick leave is a good way out for me.
Mm.
I hope I'm not going to use it again.
My son and his wife they had decided to retire in about 12 months, and then they're both nurses and they both work in drug and alcohol here in Australia, and after they'd made the decision that they would only work for another 12 months and they've got all their budget thing all sorted out and everything, they got offered a job with a private company instead of working with the government health department. They this private company doing much the same stuff that they're doing, and they can work from home. So all of a sudden they've moved from a full retirement to this part-time work that suits them down to the ground, you know, because they love to travel. They love walking. They'll go walking tracks for days at a time. And this job just fits around that perfectly, and they can just keep on doing working as much as or as little as they like. Yeah.
So great.
So
Want
with
to
this, yeah, well, that's a good way to describe it. But as you say, I do believe that we attract certain things, especially to do with our health. We can attract dis-ease.
Mm.
Um, and so instead of feeling like you're trapped where you are in your work, I have fantasies that you could end up working part-time from home and doing stuff
Not with
Yeah.
my university, not with my bosses. No.
No. Well, maybe not. Won't be with them. Maybe, who knows? It's a
I have,
possibility.
I mean, I have now this relationship to future, to thinking about future and planning. But on the other hand, I do plan something. I have some plans. I try some things, but I can see myself not being so much attached to the outcome of it. I try something, and I'm really relaxed about it.
Right. Right.
But then comes the expectation, oh, if I'm relaxed, then something good will happen. And I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that. Okay.
Mm. And this goes on all the time.
Yeah.
There's no end to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this belief, if I really relax into everything, then everything will be fine. On one hand, I don't know if everything will be fine. On the other hand, if I am accepting of everything, then everything will be fine one way or the other.
Okay. So this lateral thinking that I mentioned earlier. So if you say, if I relax, everything will be fine. What if we just looked at that from a slightly 3 degrees one way difference and says, if I relax, I'll recognize that everything was already fine.
Yeah.
Not that it'll be fine because I relaxed, but relaxing will allow the seeing of the
Yeah.
fineness in everything.
Yeah. Backwards engineering,
Mm.
reverse engineering.
But when I say that, I have a feeling that says yours is a fantasy, cause and effect fantasy. Mine's a description of reality.
Mm.
So there's a feeling in me that says, yeah, that feels good. That feels right. That feels, whatever.
But there is one thing I might say I really know about future. And this is that I will, not I, this body, this construction that is me, will endure anything and will survive anything because it already has, because everyone else also makes it to the other side or doesn't make it, which is also an outcome.
Mm.
Something will be.
Yep, exactly.
I know, this is what I know,
Mm.
that something will be. If the time has to be, if we live in a timeline, which we
Yeah,
are forcibly.
I like
This,
that. That's good. There's an allowing there, isn't there?
yeah. I mean, it is a thought, it is a story, but it sits well with me. I think it's true.
Yeah. When you say it sits well with me, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Right?
Yeah.
There's a flavour to that story that sets it apart from the crazy stories.
Yeah. But we cannot know any details about it, how it will be. It will
Yeah.
be.
Yes, or not. That's
The
right.
details will fill in
Mm.
by themselves.
So, talking of beliefs, what pops up here is, do you think that a tree outside growing or a plant or an animal or an insect, do you think any of those behave to themselves as if they're special? That the world revolves around them? and the whole purpose of the world is to support them?
I don't think so. I think other beings, what I will say is not appropriate, but other beings recognize or just feel that they are part of a network of everything. And we don't. We what I'm talking about, I'm listening to myself, and no, I will say we separate ourselves from this network. And then I think to myself, you're just saying this because you read so much things, separate self and this and that. I don't believe myself, but I said that.
Mm. Yeah, it's an interesting one because I don't think people know that they do it, which kind of puts a different slant onto it. But it does appear that humans learn to see themselves as special, even if it's in a negative way.
Yeah.
That we're all narcissists to whatever degree. It's
Yeah.
the nature of the way we've been brought up and educated and conditioned.
I think because they cannot think, other beings recognize their role in the universe better than we do. You know?
Mm.
But it's my story.
Mm.
We cannot know.
No.
Someone said the other day that they like listening to those NDE stories. Me too. And then we can think that after we die, then we go to some realm where we feel this connectedness. And I don't know. So maybe then, but it's also a story about the future. It's really a fantastic story. But we are connected through space and time. If I smile to someone today, they might feel good and, I don't know, be good to someone else, which may trigger a chain of events like this or that. If I yell at someone, they might be upset, and then the story goes the other way. And then the sofa I'm sitting on, there were people making it somewhere, who knows, IKEA in Vietnam, or so we're connected. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah. And that,
yeah.
I thought recently I should watch again that movie 6 Degrees of Separation, because it must be 20 years ago that I saw it. But it's amazing how small the world is, really. Yet it's huge, but it's not. Yeah. And it's magnificently unknowable.
Yeah.
I don't know where that come from. Yeah. So there are no aspects of this waking up thing that you're struggling with, as I see it. That you recognise that there's no self running the show. You recognise the nature of choice and decision and control.
It goes suspiciously smoothly.
Sorry?
It goes suspiciously smoothly. No, and that's my question. I mean, is it really going this well, or am I just imagining and adapting and saying to you what you want, what I think you want to hear?
What would be the difference?
It wouldn't be me, and me doesn't exist anyway. It's
That
not
is
me one way or the
definitely
other.
not you then, is it?
There's no help to me.
Uh, so if there's none of those things to be examined, would it be accurate to say that what does exist is doubt about being awake? That doesn't sound quite right, does it?
Yes,
What would
yes,
you?
there is doubt. There is doubt.
Yeah.
There is doubt, but I allow this doubt to dissolve into not knowing. I don't know. And I'm not searching for the answer. Am I awakened or not? I
Mm.
don't know. And the thing I did learn from you, that I accepted from you, is to ease into not knowing, and that I cannot know. I was so grasping for knowing, for understanding, for explaining, for everything to have a reason. And here I
Yeah.
really, yeah, I let it go. Nothing has to have the reason, nothing has to have an explanation. Everything
Mm.
is as is, and it is to be accepted, nothing else.
Mm. Well, just playing with that to be accepted, that will happen or not.
Yes, also. And not accepted, because accepted really involves an actor. Someone has to accept something, but allowed
Yeah.
also an actor. When
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
there are actors, but never
Yeah.
mind.
No quite words, but I get what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Everything
there.
can be.
Yeah.
And this helped. This was a change of habit with me. Change of habit. This grasping for explanations. I dropped it
Mm.
by believing you.
Mm. But because you believe me, because it felt okay, it felt right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So at this point of it's not you. This is a really, I think, an important point and a tricky one. In a way, I hear you saying, if I adopt it, that that could mean that it's fake. It's not authentic. So what's authentic will be what's there spontaneously. So then we can get away from me. We can say what is there spontaneously, reactions that are spontaneous. That's really what we're looking at. Authentic spontaneity, not forced adoption. of beliefs.
On the other hand, I'm contradicting myself, and I'm contradicting myself. On the other hand, I'm really prone to not to control myself when interacting with. You see, it's complete contradiction. On the one hand, I say I'm adapting to other people, not wanting conflict. On the other hand, I have this feeling that I'm relaxed and not thinking about what I'm going to say. Maybe it's this easy to adapt. Maybe this adaptation is so easy that I am so easily picking up other people and thinking what they want to hear. So I'm saying this. So I don't know. On one side, I'm really unhinged. On the other side, I'm completely determined by dissolved in the other person I'm interacting with. I don't know. I don't know. And this type of thing I would be inclined to set aside at this moment. This is too confusing. Let's drop it now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It will come, or parts of it will come when they will be ready to disentangle.
Yeah. Well, you've probably already started that process. I mean, just the fact that you've considered it means
Yeah.
that it's in action. It's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah. And of course, there'll be elements of that that'll jump up for you that you'll see, and other elements that won't. So who knows? Yeah.
But now this adapting is bothering me a bit. I had a conversation yesterday, and I heard a thing that upset me. And I thought these people should be told this and that. Someone should answer them this and that. In direct confrontation, I wouldn't say anything to preserve the peace. But I would think, on the other hand, my way of communicating is relaxed.
Mm.
It's not that I say things that would complicate the relationship. I wouldn't say them.
So do you still feel that they should be told that whatever?
Oh yes, oh yes, yes, yes.
Yep, yep. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really them imposing their stories on someone else in a serious way.
Oh, oh.
I mean, there was a situation, someone said to another person, I think you would make a great team with someone else. How does a third person know who would the second person be a good
Mm.
team? I mean,
Mm.
it's someone's story imposed on someone else.
Right. Did you receive the message from your reaction, your physical reaction, that particular subject has juice for you?
Yes, yes, there was a visceral reaction to that.
Mm.
But I was
But
ready.
you can see that it wasn't that they should be told, but anybody who wants to do what they were doing should be told. In fact, the people that were doing that to me once should have been told.
No, I am told so many times what I should do, and I don't stand up for myself. And this is it, adapting to other people. This is
Mm.
it. Yes, yes, yes. And there was also an aspect, I'm able to see now that someone is imposing their things on other people. I might not have been able to see it in the past, even not even when was about me.
Mm. That just needed to be avoided then.
Yes. But now I can, yeah, I can at least see it.
And in a way, is that a way of you imposing your story on them that they shouldn't do a thing?
Of course it is. Of course it is. I should let, and it wasn't about me, it was about other people. Yeah, of course it is. I thought they should not impose something on someone else.
Mm.
It's a play that's playing in front of my eyes. I just should watch. Yes.
Mm. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when you say they should not impose their views on somebody else, you are doing exactly what you're saying they should not do. In fact, you're
Yeah.
wanting to impose your view on them. Not that you did it, but that's still behind it kind of thing, isn't it? And yet there's
Yeah.
something different about what they're doing and what you're doing. And so you're wanting to stop them hurting somebody.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm saying to you, that really is you're wanting them not to hurt you.
Yes.
And I would say that there were times in your life when you had things imposed on you that you didn't feel were right.
Yeah.
And now you recognize that if that happens, that you'll go along with them in order to not create conflict. So you also have a judgment about yourself as being, I don't stand up for myself.
Yeah.
So those people that were imposing their views on somebody yesterday, you could go up them and you could look them in the eye and you could shout at them and you could say, don't impose your views on me.
Never. Never. I did in past act by anticipating the same persons, the same group of persons, by anticipating what I thought they were thinking to adjust my actions. Even that, even so far. This is now shadow work. But never mind, it happens. Fresh feelings and fresh sensations. So it's okay.
Yeah. And when that gets triggered for you, there arises a delusion of a self that needs protecting, that needs looking
Yes.
after.
Yeah.
It's not to say that it was always there, but that behavior triggers it into existence. So even though it came from before, it's the current identification that, if broken, means that it's no longer an issue.
Yeah.
So it gets triggered in the now and we can deal with it in the now. We don't have to go back to that and do it. Yeah.
Maybe this play, this situation that occurred yesterday, maybe, yeah, it happened to other people, but it triggered me and maybe will help me. We'll see next time when it comes up.
Mm.
This is the best test to see when it comes up how
Yeah,
I feel.
exactly. Yeah. Real life situation. And life will keep giving them to us, for sure. Yeah. How's life treating you, Tammy?
Hey, Vince. I guess I'm not sure on what level to answer right now. I'm just struggling with a stomach ache and with anger at my aunt who just called and had an unclear message. Anyway, I'm just sucked into stories, I guess, sensations and stories.
But
Uh,
right now, Tammy, you can see
yeah,
that that's the case, eh? That is a significant shift on being sucked in without realizing that you're sucked in. Can you get that there's this huge difference between it happening and you being lost in it, and it happening and you seeing that it's happening? Can you
yeah.
see
So
that difference?
I was lost in it, but now reporting back to you, I'm seeing it. Yeah.
Mm. And can you also experience right at the moment that the seeing of it changes it? Maybe not in a way we can define, but it's different because you're seeing it.
Agreed.
And could you imagine that a way to describe that difference is to say that it's now less sticky. There's the attachment to it is weakened a little bit. Could
Yes.
you go that far?
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
So then could you imagine that at some point this stuff can go on and the only reaction you'll have to it will be, isn't that interesting that that's there?
So that's the question. Is it interesting that my aunt said something and then I didn't know how to answer? And then she called and said, "Why are you ignoring me?" And I said, "Why are you writing to cancel at midnight?" She said, in other words, this whole altercation kind of thing
No, that's not the
will
interesting part
happen.
at all. No.
So you're
The,
saying that won't happen, or it'll still happen, but I won't care? In other words, my response to what she wrote would have been different. Like, isn't that interesting? She's canceling again, but trying to say she isn't. Or the fact that like I felt sick about it and didn't know how to answer and fell into confusion, that will be, oh, isn't that
that
interesting? There I go into confusion again.
it's all interesting. That is especially interesting. The fact
Mm-hmm.
that she's doing what she's doing, the way she's doing it, is also interesting. But isn't interesting a way of you looking at something with curiosity,
Yeah, I
but
love that. It's
it's
really
not
good.
really, you're not involved in it so much. You're seeing it a bit objectively. When you go, it's interesting. There's a couple of degrees of separation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with whatever happens. There can't be anything wrong. It's logically, it's not possible for there to be anything wrong. Certainly things can be unpleasant. Right? And in the case of this kind of thing, we kind of expect unpleasantness. But if we can see it in this objective manner, then it doesn't hurt us in the way it used to when we were lost in it. Right? It still means that it's still got to be coped with. We've still got to handle it. We've still got to work out what's our response going to be, etc. But it's not the barbs of the arrows are not deep in us anymore. So what we're looking at is a progression out of the victim, out of the compulsion to suffer because of it.
Mm-hmm. Meaning not that discomfort won't arise in the stomach or in response to people's behaviors, but that it won't be so much of a suffering, more of a curiosity.
Yeah. Now, but I would expect also that as you get better at this, that will also change, and there will be less suffering. But it does. But we also recognise that the way that can happen does not include any pushing against it or any resistance to it. The way that will happen, that it will loosen its grip on you and that you will see it differently, is with being able to connect to the details of it rather than the whole. I'm lost for words here.
The story of it, like,
The big cover of it all. This whole
Mhm.
thing adds up to this huge thing. Did you read my story about the black bag?
Was it recent?
Yes, a couple of days, I think. Yeah.
I don't think so. I was in the middle
Uh,
of the beautiful haikus, and I had read this story that was brilliant about the voice in the head. Oh my gosh, I was laughing for an hour. That was so good. I'm like, did he read my mind? That was amazing.
yeah, good. Well,
Um,
there's one called the black bag that I think it's called the black bag that particularly fits this situation, and that's like, we end up putting our problems in this big black bag that we end up carrying around or dragging around with us or carrying on our back, and it's huge. It's really, and it's heavy, and we're weighed down with it, and so on. And then eventually, when we somehow something happens and we decide to look at what is actually there, we start emptying it out, and it turns out to have not much in it at all. But while it's full and in a big black bag, it's got a lot of weight and it's heavy, and it's really disconcerting to try and operate with it on your back. But anyway, yeah, so it's like that. What happens is when we get into the details of things, we start to find little bits and pieces that we can actually do something about. But if we see it as at a distance, and it's just a big mass, then it's like, whoa, it's just too much to do anything with. So
meaning,
yeah, go on.
meaning, if I go into a whole story, if she always does this, how am I going to solve it? Should I continue working with her? How do I answer this? Is it my
Yeah,
personality? If I start going
exactly.
into a
Yeah.
whole thing versus, well, my stomach is hurting now. She's writing this message. It's impertinent. How do I answer it? Just like go with the details of the day of the sensations in
Yes.
the body and.
And you can even break it down further than that, So when you find yourself saying it's impertinent, recognize that, okay, that's a judgment on your part. Now, what did she mean by that is another question that might come up. So surely she wasn't intending to be impertinent, although she
Mhm.
might be, right?
Mhm.
What, if I was to put myself in her shoes, I wonder what she meant by that. So there's a curiosity about a detail that means that when you consider it, you can't be feeling hurt about the whole thing because you're no longer in the whole thing. You're only in the details of this bit of it.
Mhm.
So the more details you get into, the more you have the opportunity to do something to deal with it, and the less you're affected by the hugeness of everything thrown together in all of that. So when you were saying what you were saying about her, that she wrote this letter and I need to answer it and she was impertinent and so on and so on. You're throwing things in the bag. Can you see, almost I can imagine you picking up, there's her impertinence and putting it in the bag. And there's the fact that she wrote this letter and there's the fact that I've got to respond. And so you end up with all this stuff in the bag. And then you look at this huge bag that you've got and you go, well, I've got to deal with this, but oh God, it's so big. I don't think I can.
Although
Whereas, yeah, go on.
there is kind of context, because I could have been like the bigger person and just said, sure, we can cancel half our meeting and make it an hour later. But she does this every time. So there is context of like, do I want to continue?
Yeah, yeah,
You
I
know
get
what I
it. I
mean?
get
Like,
it. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not a,
yeah.
a new and fresh, oh, look how interesting, she wants to cancel or make it later and pretending she isn't. It's like every time she'll do it at like midnight the
Well,
night before.
here's the thing, is it? I mean, the fact that she's consistent, isn't that a good thing?
No, because I schedule my time and then she'll
But
always
if
end
she's,
up
if is she every time or only 99%? Because if she's every
99,
time, yeah,
99.
so that means that you can't schedule your time to include that always being late bit. So
Exactly. Sometimes she
because the
surprises
moment
me
you
and
do
comes
that,
early.
yeah, she'll be on time. Yeah. Okay. But I mean, I do that. I mean, I see somebody on a regular basis and I've been seeing them once a week now for a long, long time. And they're always 10 minutes late.
Hmm.
And I find it rather interesting, that I go, well, I could turn up 10 minutes late and that'll be the day they're there waiting for me probably. But essentially, um, no, I'll still be on time, but I've got things to do while I wait. So I'm not at all concerned about the fact that they're always 10 minutes late.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Here it's more like it's within a span of a few hours, or totally canceling, or she'll cancel the music part, which I like, rather than me coaching her, which she likes. So there's it's like a few things are convoluted there. But
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
yeah,
So
rather than
can you imagine, can you conjure up a fantasy now that you you totally accept these foibles of her personality and that you learn sufficient agility to scoot around what problems these things might conjure up by her being the way she is? I mean, when the way I look at it, now this, I'm not talking about her, but the world's full of assholes. They're everywhere. There are people there. Now I can easily forgive them if I look at them from a bigger perspective and go, well, they can't help it. That's the way they were brought up, and that's their personality and so on. So they're not in control of that kind of stuff. So I can forgive them in that way. But the reality is I've still got to deal with them, I've got to deal with these attitudes that are there. But, the funny thing is, this is really weird, and I'm not sure what it means, but it's got to be, it's a long time since I had an arsehole in my life. Yet I know that they're everywhere. I see them on television all the time. I know that they're everywhere, but they're not in my life. And I'm not sure why. It's nothing skillful about it. Maybe they're there and I don't recognise them for being arseholes. What I'm pointing out to you is you get what you expect. So unconsciously, we coach people to give us the things that we don't want if we expect them.
Mhm. but I'm not in control of my subconscious or my expectations. So what do I do? I guess just be aware that I'm expecting her to act like she acts.
Well, that would be a great start. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And if when you make conscious that you have that expectation that she is going to do the way what she does, straight away something will lighten up, something will loosen up by the mere fact that you're aware that that's what your expectation is. That's your story. It's really got at this point, it's got nothing to do with her for this meeting or this thing that's coming up. You can say, well, she's done it for so much that I expect she'll continue to do it, and that might be right, but possibly she's always treated you the way she treats you because of the way you are with her. Who knows? But what all I'm saying is, by you simply being aware that that's your expectation, that will change things by itself. Now, it may not be obvious in the beginning that it's going to change her, but it will change your reaction to her. And then as that changes, you watch, she will also change.
So even though every evidence points to the contrary, I should expect that she'll come on time?
No, definitely don't. We don't want you to expect unreasonable things. No, you're not saying that. Eventually it might get to that point, because eventually maybe your relationship will develop to the point where you can explain to her how important it is for you that she is on time, and that might or might not change her. But at this stage, no, there's not much you can do about that. I'm not saying believe, we're not trying to magically change her.
So what did you mean about expectations?
Well, you'll get what you expect a lot of the time. And then, but that doesn't mean, yeah, well, it's a bit tricky because people believe they have expectations of one thing when in fact they have the expectations of the opposite. So that could also be the case. All I'm saying is be aware of whatever's going on. If you have expectations that she's going to treat you in a certain way, just be aware that you have those expectations, and then you will watch to see if that's true or not. And that watching, that awareness puts a different slant on everything.
To not try to get rid of the fact that I am expecting her to do all kinds of things, just be aware of that I have those expectations and then see what she actually does.
Absolutely. Yes, that's it. Perfect. Yeah.
I will say that I was able to, a lot of times in the last couple of weeks, melt out of stories and like collapse them before they see them and they collapse before spiraling me away. But then sometimes I just get sucked in again, and it amazes me how feisty, how whatever. Anyway, how much I can get sucked in by just a combination of lack of sleep, a stomach ache, and a impertinent aunt, you know what I mean? And there I'm gone again. But
yep. And don't you find it interesting that happens? I do.
I guess.
Yeah. Of course, things are going to happen differently when you're tired or sick, exhausted, whatever. All of those things change the way you react. Your tolerance level goes down the more tired you are.
Yeah, I guess it is just when you asked, is it interesting? It's kind of fascinating. Like we see through things and it's so clear, and we're just so clear. And then hours later, it's like sucked back into the spiral vortex. It's like, wow, how did that happen? But
And I reckon that's amazing. Isn't it absolutely a mind blower that you can see things so clearly, and then an hour later it's like you never did. Yeah, boom, it's
yeah.
gone again. But it'll come back as well. That's equally interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this all adds up to nothing is predictable. Nothing you can never know what's going to happen. Yeah.
And how do I call it? I was going to say, so I should just keep seeing through stories, but how do I call it a story? A, when my stomach is actually hurting and I didn't get sleep, and B, when she actually does behave this way. It's not just a story. In
Mhm.
other words, I guess what would be my entry point or practice point of, like, what do I do with this stuff?
Right. So your entry point to it is awareness. Your entry point is to recognize that you are responding to whatever's going on for you. And almost for sure that will be in the form of a story. So a story can be simply one or two words even, or it can be many, many paragraphs or chapters even. But it can all be, it's amazing. You can have one thought that's like the cover of a book, and you know that one thought contains a whole book full of stories. And although you're not actually reading them, narrating them, you know that they're there, and you know that you know them, even though you're only referencing the title of the book, so to speak. That's the mind can work like that. It can be amazing how complex and complete it can be. So your entry into any of this stuff is to step outside of it and notice that you're noticing it. So the moment you notice it, you need to then remove yourself one more step and notice that you're noticing it. And when you notice that you're noticing it, you're sufficiently removed from the situation to see it clearly, to see what's actually going on. You'll see things. So there won't be judgment or opinions happening about things. You'll be looking at the details. You will have given yourself sufficient room to look at the details, and that will change the way you respond to it. So awareness is the answer to your question, being aware of what's going on. And if you're not, that's fine too. If you're not aware of it, you don't know that you're not aware of it. If you are aware of it, you know that you're aware of it. So it's like, if you're not aware of it, well, nothing to worry about. It's just not happened. Don't worry about it. Even if later on you go, I was not aware of it, what that means is that you are now aware of it, at least in respect to the memory of it. So
Yeah, and then when I
you can't lose. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry. So if I wake up in the middle of a vortex of that I've been spiraling for a couple hours, so just and then sometimes that'll be enough to collapse it, but usually if it's in the middle of a spiral storm, so I guess I just keep on observing as I get carried away into the spiral storm until I pick different.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. So if you're in the middle of a storm and you realize you're in the middle of the storm, you've become aware of it, right? And then if you become aware that you're aware of it, that removes you out of the storm to a great degree. Now, it may not happen. It may be that the storm is still strong enough to keep you in there, but
Yeah,
that awareness still lessens your connection to it. So
right.
it's
And
like
not
you can't lose. You can't lose. You're either aware of it, in which case it removes you from it to a degree, or you're not aware of it, in which case you don't know that you're not aware of it. So nothing to do. So can you see that in both cases, we haven't contacted the delusion that we've got control over this. In both cases, it's just whatever turns up or doesn't turn up. You can't do it wrong. That's what I'm trying to say. You can't do it wrong, no matter what.
You mean putting judgment on that and getting sucked into a secondary spiral would be going into the delusion that I could have done differently?
Well, yes, but you if that's what happens, you're not going to see it until afterwards, because if you see it beforehand or even as it's happening, it'll change. It won't happen, or it'll happen differently.
Yeah, I guess the worst is A, the suffering itself, and B, when I realize what's happening, but I still can't get out of it. But yeah, when
Yeah,
it doesn't collapse just by the seeing of it, and then there's
yeah.
more suffering. But
So
and then
also recognise that you've got to remind yourself of this until it becomes natural, and that is that the primary aim is not to just get out of the suffering. The primary aim is not to change it. Right? That's a side effect that we can reasonably expect will occur by accepting it. So the way to change it is to accept it. The way to change it is to not change it, to not try to change it.
to accept that I'm in tension because of the stomach ache rather than relaxing into it, to expect that it's to accept that it's okay that I'm still in like spiral of emotions from my aunt and like not looking forward to her coming, like just accept that that's how I'm feeling.
Absolutely, yes. Accept that you didn't bring this on. You can't do anything to change it. It is just the way it is. Now that doesn't mean that you go, oh God, I'm a victim and it's all going to be terrible. That's spiraling off into a secondary suffering thing. But it's a case of I recognize that what I am experiencing is already there, and there's nothing I can do to change the fact that it's already there. What will happen 1 minute from now, I have no idea. It might or might not be there. So we don't even bother to get into that. So we don't know about the future. But right at the moment, what I am aware of has already happened. And so that kind of acceptance of it is the best way forward, or the best way for you to discover a different perspective that where it's much more tolerable.
Yeah, you said you didn't create this. I think that's a source of a lot of my trouble. I like people will say, you make life harder than it has to be, or you're too sensitive, or why did you do this? Or people like, in other words, did I create these reactions and my own personality, or is that a given? But something I was given and have to deal with, or did I create it? You know what I mean?
There's no difference to that. The answer is that what you think you created, you didn't, and what you think others created, they didn't. Right? It is just the way it is for whatever reasons are there. But that's quite beside the point to know about it. We don't have to know about it. It is just what it is. It's not what we think it is. It's what it actually is. And that is really a lot of what we're getting at here, was for you to recognize that what you think it is where the suffering comes in. What it actually is something else. So what it actually is can create pain, but it can't create suffering. The suffering can only come from what we think it is.
So with my aunt, what would that be? Pain versus suffering?
Well, how do you discover which one is which? What is the difference? So if you're responding to what something means, any story about what something means, then it's suffering. It's a secondary thing. Right, so you get the Buddhist arrow thing is a great example of that. The first arrow and the second arrow. The first arrow is pain, and that's mandatory, right? You've hit yourself on the thumb with the hammer. you're in pain. Can do nothing about that. That's the first arrow. The second arrow is to call yourself stupid for doing it. And that's where all the suffering comes from. And so in the case of your aunt, the first arrow is that she's coming. The second arrow is that that's going to cause all sorts of problems. And that's where your suffering is. So the difference between what is actually happening and what you think is happening, that's a great place for you to focus at the moment. And
So
how do you know what it is that when you're thinking about it? Because it is always about something. If you've got a thought stream going and it's about something, then you're in the second arrow territory every time. If what you're saying is a pure description of physical conditions, then that's the first arrow. Now, that could still create pain, but it's not going to create suffering. The suffering is when you go, and that means da-da-da-da-da-dum.
So I think I'm lost there as to where it's story. In other words, if she's coming and then she comes late and then it ends up changing my schedule, or she comes and then falls asleep, or just whatever
But
it
aren't they
is.
all
And
stories right now?
right. So is that all? Is that the pain and then me being
No,
aggravated by that is the story? Or is the story the
no.
fact that my
All
day
of that was
and
story, and all of that was suffering material for you, right? In fact, see that leads you to this situation. You can't even think about it until she knocks on the door. Because any thoughts about it are second arrow stories. When she knocks on the door, that's your direct experience of her, the beginning of it. As long as you don't, as you head towards the door, start thinking, this is going to be terrible, that's again second arrow stuff.
well, then everything is second arrow, because all of my emotion and all of my suffering now is stories about how my day has changed, what that means, about how she's always late. Everything is stories and anger. So
Yes, there you go. How does that feel? Whoa, that was a big one, wasn't it?
horrible. It feels horrible that I'm stuck in these stories. Yeah.
Right. Now, hang on. To say you're stuck in these stories, that's another story, because we've had the experience where you haven't been stuck for several stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that you could be stuck, that's also a story. You have been stuck in the past, that seems pretty descriptive. You've also not been stuck, that's also descriptive. So nothing predicts what she's going to be like.
Yeah, but I can't really see her because there's like layers of stories upon my head compressing me down. Like, in other words, I've come
Yes,
to with so many stories already about her.
yes, I get that. Yep.
But
So,
where do we say there's reality? Because it's like, let's say you're at work and someone is always lying or coming late. Like, you have to also deal with the reality. You can't just say it's all in my head stories.
yeah, okay. So, but they are, well, they're not all, but you're good at that, So you say they're always lying, right? That's not about them lying to you in a specific instant, is it? It's about your imagination about the way they always are. Now, whether they see themselves as lying or not, that's another story, but that's irrelevant to you, right? The point is, what's actual is when they're in front of you lying to your face. That they're not there and you're thinking about them, you're in storyland. So yes, you've got a lot of stories. You do that a lot. Now, that's not to say it's wrong. It is
Wait, but
what it is. Yeah.
let's say I pass by a dog every day that bites people that pass.
To say, oh, I'm in story, this dog may not bite me today, I should come with a clean slate, it's kind of naive. You understand what I'm saying? Like ignoring the
Yeah, I
reality
get
that a
that.
person acts a certain way is naive. So where does that intersect with reality? Like it is a story, and
Yes,
yet
I get that. Yeah.
I shouldn't pass there. So how do we reconcile those two?
Well, you don't need to reconcile them. You're right. You know, of course, there is those kind of stories that have a particular flavour about them that says it's reasonable for you not to go near that dog because you know it bites. Uh, to say that it will bite you for sure is a story. To say that it won't bite you for sure is a story. But that's a story. That's a story that you don't want to check out. You don't want to see if it's going to really bite you, and so you avoid it. That's simple. But you don't respond to stories at a constant level that all dogs are going to bite you. Most dogs won't bite you.
But with my aunt, expecting that she'll be late or canceled, that's normally what she did. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just like,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
do we take stories with us into our daily life without being naive or ignoring the past and yet not?
yeah. So you can expect that because she's done it so often that she likely will do it again. That's a story, but that's a story that has some reasonableness to it. Then what about the story about how much that's going to cause problems for you? That's the story where the suffering comes from, big time. The story that she's going to be late, that doesn't really produce any suffering, does it? Unless you have another story that says, but she should be on time.
Or that it's a waste of my day, or
Yes, all of that. Yeah. I mean, if you've agreed to meet her, then it's a waste of your day is a story that's going to cause suffering that there's no way out of, is there?
so kind of just watch and notice that I keep meeting her until I decide not to anymore. In other words, just watch what I do and that it's okay with me and that I keep going to the situation, even though it's.
Yeah, look, at this stage, you know, it's reasonable to imagine, I can imagine, that you might reach a point with her where you draw some boundaries. Or you might not. Who knows? Right? Maybe she'll get run over by a bus and she won't be in your life anymore. We don't know. Well, all I'm saying is that while she is in your life and she does regularly do what you describe, turn up late, cancel at the last minute, or whatever, that if you expect that that's what she's going to do, then you can watch yourself with your expectations and then confirm them as she does them or disprove them as she doesn't do them. But either way, it becomes a case of watching. It's being aware of. Right. The thing is, the thing for you at this stage, and it's very much a stage. The two people that I was talking to before you turned up, Maya and Jed, right? They've broken that compulsion to believe every story that turns up. They've broken the compulsion to obey their stories, right? And so consequently, they're now at a point where stories will take on a different flavour for them and they'll be able to respond to them differently. You're still at the stage where you're compelled to respond to your stories in a way that creates suffering. And so what we've got to do is we've got to say, well, look, at this stage, you can believe that all of your thoughts are bullshit. Every one of them is going to get you into trouble, and believe none of them, right? Now that's just a story, because you can't do that, can you? That's just a way of getting you to look at something. So the idea is at this stage, you've got to work out what's a story and what's real, what's actual. And I'm telling you that what is actual is only one thing, and everything else is story. And that's so it's easy to discover from that perspective. And that one thing that is actual is your current experiencing. You can describe it, but you can't give it meaning. Well, you can, but it doesn't hold water. Right. So you have your current experiencing is the only thing that is actual for you in your life. Everything that is not part of your current experiencing, so underline that, current experiencing, right?
Is anger part of that, or is that a
If you're
story?
experiencing anger, yes. Yeah. Whatever it is that you're currently experiencing. Now, that is what is actual. And absolutely everything else is a story, because everything else is about something. Now, the thing is, if you describe your current experiencing, if you're very careful and very aware as you do it, you'll describe it in a almost objective way. You'll describe what it is you're experiencing without putting meaning on it or without value judgment. It'll just be an objective description.
The
Right? At the
description
moment,
is stomachache, anger, and stories. That's what I'm experiencing.
yeah. Well, that's right. Yeah, but that's at that level. Now what we could do is we can then go into and say, well, what you're actually experiencing isn't anger. Anger is a concept, right? Anger is a story about a whole lot of things that we add up together to use the word anger for, right? That what we're actually experiencing is a contraction in the gut. We're experiencing heightened blood pressure. Our breathing is faster, and we're frothing at the mouth, or whatever might be happening that we call anger, right? So that is, but the anger is a weird label that we put on things. So when we're talking about what is your actual experiencing, you wouldn't use words like anger. You would describe the individual aspects of this thing you call anger. You would be describing sensations and behavior.
Yeah, it translates to physical pain in different areas, the stomach, the head, and
Yes,
then just constant images of like her coming and me yelling at her, and just like thoughts and stories arising in waves, waves and waves of another story, and then me imagining yelling, another story, me imagining me frustrated. Like
yes,
that's
yes.
that's what
Yeah,
those are the images, and then there's like harsh sensations in the body.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So that's an interesting one too, because what you've got is uh, whether you didn't mean it, I imagine, but you've tripped me up on this thing. So what you're actually having a current experience of stories. So it's pretty hard to separate the two when that's going on, eh? Right. So now here's a trick. You you can you can experience the fact of a thought, right? Okay, you can say, well, I had a thought. And if I say to you, what was it about? You might say pink elephants, right? But the fact is, you experience the fact that you had a thought. And I can put in brackets after that, that was about pink elephants, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the pink elephants is the content of the thought, but the thought itself was something that happened, well, let's say in your head. It was something that happened. You had an experience of a story, right? That was your experience. So you can experience stories, And that is actual. That is your actual experience. Your direct experience is the fact that you are experiencing a story. Then you can say what the story was about isn't part of the experience. My response to what the story was about is my experience.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so we're delineating between the fact that it's there and the content of what it's about. So that's a really important point to once you get a hold of that one, that inside direct experience there can be stories. But just for the moment, let's not complicate things. Let's stay with the fact that you're having your direct experience is those physical sensations that you're having. So stick with that for the moment. Just physical sensations are your actual direct experiencing. And thoughts about that, whether they are thoughts that cause you to have that physical experience or whether they came afterwards, they're stories. So once you can get a clear picture of what are stories and what's direct experience, then we can move on to the next step.
So you don't even think necessarily that the stories cause the sensations? It seems like I see like waves of thought. It's like pictures that come in, like a wave of angry content and then imaging of me
Yeah.
angry and imaging of stories and words, whatever. It's like waves that
Yeah.
come in. It's like images of it as well. And
Yep,
there's
yep, yep.
also harsh sensations, but you're saying one didn't necessarily cause the other. They're just both present.
Treat them as that. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it's a bit too tricky and it complicates issues to start saying about that. Yeah. So cause and effect is another story, right? But yeah, we can say at a superficial level, yeah, we can say that story caused me to have this reaction, right? But that's just a superficial way to put it. It's not that the story didn't actually cause me to have this reaction. It's my beliefs about the story that caused me to have this reaction. And those beliefs are another story that underlie that story. So no story exists on its own. That's a bit of a tricky one too. Right. So let's not complicate things. Let's try and work it wherever. So the simple case of your aunt coming, right, is that you're going to have stories about her right up until the time she actually turns up. And that's all that'll be. Now, you'll then respond to those stories, react to them, right, and that will be your direct experience, right? And that direct experience will actually give rise to other stories. So now we get this concept of it spiraling off into a whole other experience. And that's what we want to stop for you. We want to stop this spiraling off. That's why your life is so shitty, because it spirals off all the time into these huge other areas that are unnecessary. So
So my mission, if I
yeah, go on.
sorry. So my mission, should I choose to accept it, is to is to just observe the stories and observe the sensations and try not to get sucked into the content of the stories for now.
Yeah, I would even go as far as to say, don't try not to get sucked into the content. Just recognize what actually happens. That's much more valuable than don't try not to. That's no good. But recognize what actually happens, right? You will of course try not to get sucked into them when you see them. It's only when you don't see them as stories that you do get sucked into them. So the moment you're able to see them in an objective fashion will be the moment that they lose their power. Right now, so I'll just to make it a bit clearer again, and what I want you to do is see the difference between what is actually happening for you right now, which means that you don't think about what it means. You don't go off into anything other than it's a first person experience of what is actually happening in the body right now and everything else, which includes all of those stories about her. Right. So this is your homework, right? Recognize, don't try and stop them. Recognize that you're going to have stories about your aunt until the moment she knocks on the front door, right?
Mhm.
And from that moment on, you're going to have a mixture of stories and direct experience with her. And all I want you to do is delineate between which one is happening, which is
Mhm.
direct experience and which is me reacting to a story about her or about it.
Wow, that's a big one. I have so many stories about her, but okay, that'll be
Yeah.
interesting. Mhm.
And we don't try to stop the stories. You let them run, let them do whatever they want. Just recognize them for what they are. That
Mhm.
is huge. That is really, really big. Once you've got a handle on that, that's a major breakthrough. And then we can move on to the next step.
All right, this will be intense because I'm already in intense physical sensations and intense thoughts and
Yep.
emotions, which I guess you would say is stories. So
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right,
yeah.
going into the belly of the beast, Vince, and I will report back.
Okay, thank you. And just while we're on that, that's a perfect segue into the belly of, okay, not the beast in this case, but you. That stomach ache, right? A brilliant, now remember, we're not trying to fix it. What we're hoping is that it will go away as a side effect to what we're going to do. And what we're going to do is look at the details of it. Get as intimate as you can with the details of the sensation that you're calling a stomach ache. Do you get that?
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm.
And once you get more friendly and au fait with that one, that's a huge step forward as well. Right. So we're not going to resist anything. We're just going to be aware of what turns up.
Perfect. When you talk, it's easier to do, but I will try to brave it on my own.
Okay.
You
And
know what
you'll
I mean?
try
It's
and
harder
fail,
when
and that's
I'm,
fine. Yeah.
yeah, it's harder when I'm on my own. It's so much easier like while we talk in group, but all right, I'll take it into the life. I truly, truly appreciate. Thank you so much.
Okay. You're very welcome. Thank you, Tammy. I'm
Thanks.
looking forward to when I see your face.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, everybody. Well, we're going to wind up now. Thank you.